The Death Penalty by Victor Hugo. Gentlemen of the jury, if there is a culprit here, it is not my son. It is myself. It is I who for these 25 years have opposed capital punishment, have contended for the inviolability of human life, have committed this crime for which my son is now arraigned. Here, I denounce myself, Mr. Advocate General. I have committed it under all aggregated circumstances, deliberately, repeatedly, tenaciously. Yes, this old and absurd lex talionis, this law of blood for a blood, I have combated all my life, gentlemen of the jury. And while I have breath, I will continue to combat it by all my efforts as a writer, by all my words and all my votes as a legislator. I declared it before the crucifix, before that victim of penalty of death who sees and hears us, before that gibbet from which 2,000 years ago for the eternal instruction of the generation. The human law nailed the divine in all that he has written on the subject of capital punishment, and for writing and publishing that for which he is now on a trial. In all that he has written, he has merely proclaimed the sentiments with which from his infancy I have inspired him. Gentlemen, jurors, the right to criticize the law and to criticize it severely, especially a penal law, is placed beside the duty of amelioration. It's like the torch beside the work under the artisan's hand. The right of the journalist is as sacred as necessary, as imprescriptible as the right of the legislator. What are the circumstances? A man, a convict, a sentenced wretch is dragged on a certain morning to one of our public squares. There he finds the scaffold. He shudders. He struggles. He refuses to die. The victim clings to the scaffold and shrieks for pardon. His clothes are torn. His shoulders bloody. Still he resists. They drag him forth haggard, bloody, weeping, pleading, howling for life, calling upon God, calling upon his father and mother. For like a very child had this man in the prospect of death. They drag him forth to execution, and he is hoisted on the scaffold, and his head falls, and then through every conscience runs a shudder. Never had legal murder appeared with an aspect so indecent, so abominable. All feel jointly implicated on the deed. It is at this very moment that from a young man's breast escapes a cry, wrung from his very heart, a cry of pity and of an anguish, a cry of horror, a cry of humanity. In this cry, you'll be punished. And in the face of the appealing facts which I have narrated, you would say to the guillotine, thou art right, and to the pity, saintly pity, thou art wrong. Gentlemen of the jury, it cannot be. Gentlemen, I have finished. The Death Penalty by Victor Hugo.